Hey, today we're talking about something that comes up a lot for trans women: disclosure. This is a deeply personal and frankly rather complicated topic. Society has this weird double standard for trans women that they expect us to disclose our transgender identities to the same cisgender men that they're afraid of. Let that sink in. I say that it's a double standard because cisgender people don't have to disclose their entire medical history when they meet someone on the first date. So why should we? A lot of the times, trans women are placed in situations where it's not about openness, it's about survival. When it comes to how I navigate situations like this, I tend to live stealth in my day-to-day life. And for anyone who doesn't know what stealth means, essentially it means that I walk through the world and in spaces where people do not know that I'm transgender. The world that we live in is not always a safe space for transgender women. And something I want people to understand is that whether it's a job or a friendship or just being safe out in public, being out for trans women isn't always an option. In terms of career or job or networking opportunities, you never know who's gonna withhold an opportunity from you because of their personal feelings about your gender identity. So that's why I choose to go stealth in my day-to-day life. Even outside of the concerns that I listed, another reason that I live stealth, quote unquote, in my day-to-day life is because my identity as a trans woman is not relevant to most of the conversations I have on a day-to-day. If I'm out in public and you tell me I like your purse, I don't see why I have to tell you, hi, I'm trans, thanks, it's my trans purse. That's not a thing. It's the same reason why the people at my job don't know. Me being a trans woman has nothing to do with what I do for work. So it's not really relevant for me to tell you, and I don't like that people feel entitled to know this. Now, moving from platonic and professional spaces and more into romantic spaces, this is where things gets a little bit more complicated. Yes, I have a boyfriend, and yes, my boyfriend knows that I am transgender. I didn't tell him when I first met him because it wasn't relevant. I'm gonna make a video talking about how I met him because some of you have asked me that story, but for the sake of this video, we met mutually through a friend, and the entirety of our relationship was just him and I playing games together online. But when he expressed to me that he found me attractive, because eventually we did end up swapping photos so we knew what each other like. Anyway, when he expressed to me that he found me attractive and I felt the same way, then he and I had a conversation about it. And I decided to have that conversation with him because I enjoy spending time with him. He's attractive. I want to see where this goes. Let me give him this information to see if he's still interested before things go this direction. But let me be clear. Don't use my story as, and this is why trans women should say something before things even, my situation is not every trans woman's situation. Me and my boyfriend were long distance. We lived like 800 miles from each other. So he did not know what school I went to. He did not know where I lived. And he had only seen like 1 to 2 photos of me. So he barely knew what I looked like. I felt safe giving him that information because if he turned out to be transphobic, or if he decided that he wanted to harm me, he was gonna have a hell of a time trying to find me. That's why I feel like maybe we should not say that trans women should just put themselves in danger, because if I'm being completely honest with you, when I met him, if he and I had lived in the same city, things might have gone differently. I understand that disclosure is important, but disclosure should never come before my safety. I've not always taken this approach. There have been men in my life that have expressed attraction to me, and I did not tell them. And I didn't tell them because the man that I'm specifically speaking about, so I had this one job, and this man used to come to my job every day, and he would flirt with me. And number one, I wasn't interested in him, so I didn't tell him. But number two, I knew for a fact that he knew where I worked and he knew what car I drove. So I want you to put yourself in that situation. Okay, this man is flirting with me and I'm not interested, but even if I was, I'm gonna give him this information that could possibly get me killed. Unalived, should I say unalived for YouTube? It's possibly gonna get me hurt. This man knows what car I drive, this man knows where I work, and you're telling me that you want me to tell this man standing in front of me, by the way, I'm trans. For him to assault me at work, the situation is so much more complicated than people give credit to. And I'm sorry. I personally feel like safety should always come before disclosure. 100%. Now, for anybody watching this that may be wondering, okay, well, how do you safely navigate disclosing? I think that's up to the individual girl because nobody knows her situation but her. There have been times where men have come up to me and told me, hey, I think you're attractive. Let me give you my number, da 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 da. And I didn't tell them in person. I waited until I left. And then I told them through text or through phone call. Looking at the rate at which trans women are assaulted or unalived, I will always say that I think the right to disclose is up to the girl and when she feels safe. There's a common narrative online from a lot of cis people that assumes that the reason why trans women don't disclose on first meeting is because we're trying to convince this man to fall in love with us, and then maybe when we tell him this horrible information, he'll stay. Let me tell you this. The narrative that trans women are undesirable and that the only way that we can get male attention or affection is through lying and deceiving men needs to stop today. If I showed you my Instagram DMs, you would gag. I have never had to lie to get a man to like me. And I want you to know I'm 100% right now. Every man that I have ever wanted, I got. So let's stop the narrative that trans women are undesirable and that the only way that we can get men is through tricking them. That is not true. Most times we're trying to get them to leave us alone. I feel like someone might watch this video and say, well, why are you dealing with men that might possibly hurt you? Do you know men? I have a friend that I've known for like 2 years, and he does not know that I'm trans. He and I were talking about something not too long ago, and he said something transphobic. And I was like, and this is exactly why I didn't tell you, because you never know how people feel about it, especially when they don't know that you're trans, because that's another thing. It's one thing how people behave in front of a person that they perceive as visibly trans, but it's a completely different thing how people act and behave and talk about trans people when they think a trans person is not in the room. Something that frustrates me about this topic is that I feel like people don't take into consideration the kind of world that we live in, because if I'm being honest with you, sometimes we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. I remember back in college, there was this guy that was attracted to me and he did not know. I was not interested, so I did not tell him. He offered me his number, I didn't take it. He offered to hang out. I just kind of brushed him off politely. His friends found out that he had a thing for me, and his friends knew. His friends told him, and this man began being very mean to me. What did I do? I'm minding my business, and you told me that you thought I was pretty. And I said, thank you. And I walked away. But now that he knows this information and he's angry at me for not telling him when I never asked you to talk to me. Let's start there. Maybe we should reframe the way that people express their attraction to one another, because why is it my fault that you're angry at me for not telling you that I'm transgender when you came up to me when I was minding my business and told me that you thought that I was cute? If I had told him, he would have been mad. I did not tell him. He was still upset. And my friends had to check him and threaten to jump him because of the way that he was treating me. You guys really don't know the kind of stress that puts us under. If it's one thing that I want people to take away from this video, is that trans women do not owe anyone disclosure at the risk of our own safety. We live in a world today where trans women, especially black trans women, are at a disproportionate risk of violence. We've seen it in the news. We've seen what happens when a trans woman discloses her identity and then ends up hurt or worse. And yet people are pushing us to tell strangers all of our personal business. To those people, I say, if you genuinely care about my safety as a trans person, please stop encouraging me and my sisters to tell our business on first contact. Believe me, we will tell that man when we feel safe. And here's food for thought. Instead of pushing trans women to disclose ourselves to men that could potentially hurt us, how about we all put our energy towards building a world where trans people are safe? And that way we don't have to worry about disclosing because we're safe. I hope this video helps anybody that may be struggling with understanding why trans women do or don't disclose, or anybody that might be navigating the situation themselves. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have you ever struggled with disclosing to someone? How do you navigate disclosing, if you disclose at all? I want to know. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because it helps my channel out a lot. To all of my trans women watching, you are valid, you are wonderful, and you deserve a safe love. I love you, and I will catch you guys in my next one. Peace and love you guys.